You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Before I dive into spring, I did want to ask you about a couple of transfer portal additions that might be fits for LSU, and I know you've written about both. One is Baylor Cupp, the tight end from Texas A&M, and the other is Tyler Steen, the offensive lineman from Vanderbilt. As best you can tell, where is LSU with those two guys?
Well, I guess we'll start with Cupp. Let's start with Cupp, and that's a little bit more fresh. He just entered the portal, I believe it was yesterday, so on Wednesday. But this is a guy who, in the 2019 class, came out as the number one tight end in the country. He was top 50 prospect, one of the best players in Texas, and ends up signing with A&M. And it looked like he was going to step in and be kind of one of those immediate impact guys. I mean, his name was being thrown out there in that big 2019 cycle, which had a lot of talented players. Derek Stingley, all those guys, as one of the instant impact players. And had a leg injury, then had a shoulder injury. So back-to-back years where he just wasn't on the field at all. And then this past year, obviously, was away again, and now was running first team in A&M spring ball stuff. And it appears like he was healthy and enters his name into the portal. But it's interesting, of course, LSU wants to tight end as many as they can get, and they have a few spots remaining. But Brian Kelly, as you noted, circled tight end as a spot they really want to go after, and Cupp sounds on paper as good as any if he's healthy. But there is that date of back in February. If you wanted to transfer to another SEC school from an SEC school, that you had to do it by then, and that date's passed. But if you're a grad transfer, that wouldn't matter. So I'm not sure if he's got it on his mind that by the end of the semester he'll be graduated, or perhaps by the summer he'll be graduated and could maybe move over and get in quickly with someone else during fall camp. But kind of as I guess the days go by, we'll learn more about it. But certainly a guy that for sure is on LSU's radar right now, and they'll do some digging on.
What about Steen?
Now, and then, right, that's a big one. So this is a kid who's played at Vanderbilt on the offensive line for multiple years and went into the transfer portal months back and said, look, I'm going to take my time to go through all these schools and all of my options. And he's done just that. He's made a ton of visits to different places, and ultimately now has come down to where it looks like next Monday or Tuesday is going to be the day that his dad said they'll have a decision in by, and he'll announce it. But he's weighing everything from where he can kind of further his studies at to really wanting to be an NFL, type player, an NFL prospect that comes out with a higher grade than he has right now at Vandy. And because of that, I think the feeling out there is that LSU and Bama might be, shocker, the two teams that are battling here for him in the end. But he's got a Final Four that Virginia's in, and one of his little brothers, just signed to play football at Virginia in February. So they've got a pull there. Tony Elliott, their new head coach, and I know they've got a relationship with the family. So there's a feeling that if it's not one of the two SEC schools, it might be for Virginia. But we'll know next week. But he's a guy that I think you would look at in the same realm as we're presuming guys like Miles Frazier and Tremont Shorts are. He's the best offensive lineman still available in the portal, and with how many SEC starts he's had, that you take him and you hope you can develop him over the summer and fall into a spot where you feel good about him starting. So that could be big news for LSU kind of early in the start of next week.
From the potential to the present, you've been out there at practice. What have been your observations looking at this offensive line, which, as we've noted, has lost 4 starters from a year ago?
Well, I don't know how much we can glean, right, from just the 20, 30 minutes of a few practices we've watched, which were all in, shells pretty much. They're not in full pads quite yet, and certainly will be this week and into this weekend. As you said, we're going to get to watch an entire practice, which doesn't really ever happen. So we'll be out there for a couple of hours and really get to look at kind of what the O-line looks like, how many guys are kind of fresh and are able to give them reps, how many guys are kind of out, even though Kelly said, look, you may be banged up or whatever, but you're going to have a jersey on. You're going to be out there and, observing and standing around. You're not just disappearing. So we'll probably be able to differentiate those two groups and who's available. But I think they went after 2 guys already in the portal, and now are going after a third in Steen. Tells you that their evaluation of the O-line group was that they needed some immediate help. And maybe that's understood, right? That people had said the offensive line hadn't played well, and then you lose 4 starters from it. So I think you probably hope to start with a guy like Cam Wire as the one guy who's got a ton of experience that you need to be able to groom into a starter. And then you've brought in 2, potentially 3 transfers that you all, are older guys that the goal would be to get them in and start them and have them playing. And from there, you find out from all these other guys you got, Matt, on roster. And we've seen some of them play. I mean, Marlon Martinez, I know Dellinger played some last year, even though he's hurt right now and not out there this spring. Charles Turner's played before, and right now he's getting first-team reps at center, which is probably the biggest question mark position of the group, because it's not like they have a returning starter there, and nobody else on roster has been a center for the team before, been a center at another college. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. So it's an ongoing development for me, and that's one position that every year I feel like when we get on radio or we're writing about it or covering the team that we say, I'm not so sure about how the O-line's going to do. And I kind of feel in that same spot right now. But with Brian Kelly's pedigree and everything they did at Notre Dame and sending guys to the NFL, you get kind of curious to see what they can do with that group over the next couple of years.
He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. When you go out there, Shea, is there a player or position group that does stand out to you based on what you've been able to see?
I mean, defensive line is just so deep. And I mean, Brian Kelly said that too. He said, look, the thing that I would say jumps out to me are the receivers, the defensive line. And for me, when I go out there, Keishawn Butte's out right now, Neighbors is out right now, but you look at them, and again, we don't know what kind of defense Matt House, their new coordinator, is going to run, but he said he'll be multiple. But at Kentucky, a lot of it was, 3 down linemen, a stand-up edge guy or jack linebacker, whatever you want to call it, and a couple linebackers there in the middle. And then you've got a nickel, and Greg Brooks seems to be occupying that position at the moment, a transfer in from Arkansas. But I look at the guys, Mason Smith, Jaquelin Roy, they bring in Mekhi Wingo, who's a freshman All-SEC guy at Missouri. They bring in Ollie Gay's back, Sony Fanua's back, DJ Ojolari certainly can play with his hand in the dirt or standing up. And it seems that they like Xavier Carter, the old staff at the end of last year. And we've seen him getting a lot of reps. You got Philip Webb that you hope turns a corner. And I don't even know if I got into mentioning what Guillory and Langston was a guy we heard a lot about from Coach O when he was here. So I think that group just has so many options that it would be tough for me to see them not have a really good year. It seems like Jamar Cain's a good coach. They've got a lot of talent. I think they'll have a good scheme with Matt House. So I think right now, and I would hope that goes through the season, that's probably the best group they have.
Shea, you got a feeling on quarterback?
I'll tell you this, and you'll get everyone listening understands it, because people listening are probably people who are participating in this tomfoolery that I'm about to tell you. But okay. I go out there and I filmed 5 minutes, 10 minutes of them throwing at a few practices, a few literally 3. So maybe people have seen 20 minutes of video. And I come around to check the board and Twitter one day, and everybody has already decided who the starting quarterback is. And they said you could just tell it from what they were doing out there. And I was like, I filmed the video, and I didn't see anything. They were running, 11 on 11 at speed at a 2 and trying to just get the O-line to get the blocking schemes right. And I don't know. So maybe Saturday I can tell you more if we watch them the whole time. But I'm betting that this one goes beyond spring. But I've also said it before that people will say, okay, they're not going to name a starter in the spring. I do believe that, and I do believe it goes into the summer workouts and fall. But, Matt, I'm of the opinion that with a whole new staff and everybody getting a clean slate, these first 15 practices are big, because I think that then you go into the kind of true off season, the summer and the fall and into fall camp, kind of with a feeling in your mind of, hey, this guy might be the guy out front, or these two guys might be really neck and neck. And I think that's what's going to make this next month and a couple of weeks pretty interesting.
Shea Dixon on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Go 247. Y'all go read his stuff there. Follow him on Twitter. We appreciate it as always. Shea, thanks for the time, man. Be well.
Okay, I'll see you around.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.